All right, this morning we are going to talk about the Perry Township Police Levy. It is issue 25 on the November 7th ballot, and I have with me today Police Chief Bryan Taylor and also Township Fiscal Officer Craig Chessler. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Good morning, Pam.
Good to have you. Let's start first of all with Chief Taylor. You have been, 6 months on the job about?
Just about 6 months, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I think it's good for maybe you to introduce yourself to a few folks and tell us a little bit about yourself before we start talking about the levy.
Okay, great. Well, first, thanks for having me. And I'm not usually very accustomed about talking about myself, so I'll do the best I can here. Um, I've been the chief of police now here for 6 months. Before I came to Perry, I was a police officer up in Akron for 25 plus years. So came down here, and what initially drew me to the township was I was born and raised in Uniontown, Ohio. Um, I loved my childhood, and I loved that small community feel. Although Perry's pretty big in population and geographical size, there is a hometown feel there. It's quite like everybody knows everybody, or most people know everybody. So that's what kind of drew me in. Um, like many of you, I am a husband. I'm a father. I have two children, teenagers, and I really enjoy this community since I've been here. I've been welcomed, and I've been given a lot of assistance. So I'm just happy to be here.
And I know that this is the financial part, the explanation of it will be something that Craig can probably give to us because it's a little bit confusing, just a little, very, ever so slightly, but what's the importance of getting this levy passed, this issue 25?
One of the biggest things that in the 6 months that I've been here, I've talked to a lot of residents and business owners about their concerns and what they would like to see happen in Perry Township. So without a doubt, the number one complaint that I get is speeding in residential neighborhoods. And it's a real issue. Our schools are located within or adjacent to residential neighborhoods, and that's a huge concern. So with this levy, we'd like to do um, a minimum of 3 officers, new officers, to address those very issues. Their assignment would be speeding and other traffic issues in residential neighborhoods. Along with a lot of residents have expressed interest in the signs that you see on the side of the road that tell you how fast you're going. A lot of times, we all lose focus as adults. I mean, we're driving, we're thinking about other things, doing other things, and before you look up, you see one of those signs, and you're doing 40 miles an hour in a 25 mile an hour zone. Excuse me. And sometimes that's just enough of a reminder to say, oh, hey, I got to get my head in the game here. I got to slow down. And, the other side of that is there are those that, for whatever reason, just choose to speed anyway, regardless of warnings. And, then you have your traditional traffic enforcement, officers, blue and red lights. Will get your attention that way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you're right about those signs. They jolt you back into
right.
reality, kind of scares you. Yeah, absolutely. Those are all good things.
So with the levy, we would like to purchase those signs, install them, and get them up in the residential neighborhoods to, kind of start reinforcing that message. Hey, slow down.
And I know you've only been on the job 6 months,
Mhm.
but we notice police departments all around the country have had trouble keeping pay rates at a certain level to attract officers to come and stay. Is that something that you guys are looking at as well?
Uh, Obviously, yes. I've been blessed to have 24 very good police officers, and I would like to keep those 24 good police officers. And to do that, I, for lack of a better word, I have to compete with neighboring jurisdictions, with um, even out of state employers. So we need to keep our wages respectable, um, and we need to, provide benefits and, fringe benefits that will keep them there with us because we've invested a lot of time and money in those 24 officers.
All right. Craig Chessler is the Township Fiscal Officer. So you're the money guy.
The bean counter, as I
The
say.
bean counter. There you go. So explain how this would work. It's a replacement, but an increase. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think the best way to understand a lot of this is to break it down to its essence here. There are two kinds of real estate payments that come from the auditors of townships. One's called inside millage, and that is not voted millage. It's inherent by our operation. Anything above that is called outside millage, and that's what we're going after here. And presently, there are two levies that the voters have voted. I think they date back to 1999. And one of the curses that we have is that when you approve a levy in 1999, it generates so much money, and it can never generate a dollar more. So we have to deal with inflation on those things. The trustees met with the police chief and determined after several meetings, a lot of due diligence, that one of the things that would be helpful was to eliminate the two levies and combine them into a levy that's approved on the date where it starts to run. And so it will be a replacement of 3.9 and an additional 3.9 mils. Let me go to the replacement first, because the taxes are assessed by an A and a B. The A is your property value that the auditor assessed. They take 35% of that property value and multiply it times the effective rate of the voted millage. And that, if it's approved by voters, will up the increase of what we get because it will be on a new and increased value. The additional millage is obviously additional millage, and it would take the place of the others, so that we don't have to go back to the voters every year or two and create the perception that's all we're doing is coming back every year. So it's to consolidate the levies and to increase the revenue that they generate to meet the needs that the chief was talking about.
Okay. And so it's like putting it into a nice little package.
Yes.
And getting it taken care of once and for all. And then how long would this last for?
This is a 5-year levy, I believe.
That's correct.
Okay, so it would go for 5 years. And when we're talking about homeowners of, say, $100,000, what do we know?
That's what we always gear the literature to, and I will read right from there. Under the current levies, the residents pay $150 per $100,000 of assessed home value. After combining the two levies, the total cost for police service in the township would be $273 per $100,000, and we have sent out information to show for a $200,000 to $300,000 house.
Okay.
The other thing I'd like to point out is that to give this some perspective here, $273 per year for police service is one component of what people pay on the real estate taxes. I had looked at my tax bill, and that, along with the road and the fire and the general services in townships, your tax dollar only gives us 9 cents. The schools, at least on mine anyway, is 62%. So the township services are relatively inexpensive to the other services that are people buying with their tax dollars, and it's minimal.
Yeah, and you're talking about safety, right? You're talking about safety, so obviously very important. Now, this money, like you were talking about actual bodies and things like that, but it does include equipment and police cars and all like large purchases. This money would go for all of that too, correct?
Yes, absolutely. The township itself is nearly 25 square miles, so naturally we have police vehicles involved. And Craig spoke just a minute ago about inflation, and that's really hit us equally as hard as it's hit individual residents. So we did a video that we posted online about inflation, how it affects the police department. So just imagine this: in 2019, which wasn't that long ago, a police car that we bought cost around $29,000 for just the car. You install the lights, the computers, the equipment, and that's about an additional $8,000 or $9,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. And that's in 2019. So fast forward to today, we purchased the very same vehicle. Nothing comes empty. We have to put all the equipment in. That same vehicle today costs almost $59,000. So that's when he's talking about inflation. I think every resident can picture in their mind going to the grocery store or buying gas. That's kind of punctuates the need a little bit. I will say this though. Craig mentioned that our two operating levies that we currently have were from the 1999 era and 1999 money. So the police department has gotten all the way to 2023 on renewal levies. So that my hat's off to Craig and fiscal officers and managers everywhere for being fiscally responsible. So our hope with this levy, even though it's 5 years, is through prudent financial management to only come back to the residents for renewals when they're necessary.
You know, I wanted to add on to that point. Is, as you noted, our chief is relatively new speaking, and so is our board of trustees. We have two trustees that are in their first term still, and I wanted to commend them because these are new eyes and fresh eyes that we're looking at a problem that's been around forever. And they had several meetings, and they have really broken down into the costs that we have currently, the costs that are going forward. And the other thing I've seen that hasn't always been there is our officers have been out there on the campaign trail promoting the levy. So I think it's good out in the community to see the people that are the police officers promoting to the public that there is a need for this, and they're out there too. So I think that's a thing good to note.
Point. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
Yes, on a bigger picture, I noticed in the League of Women Voters, we're asking all of the candidates for township trustee countywide, how do you combat the effects of inflation on these levies that can't generate any more money? And one of the things that we've gone through in the time I've been around, I've been around since the 90s, and one of the things in the bigger picture are the economic development tools like JEDs and CEDAs and tax increment financing that are not only have they stopped the battle between the cities and the townships on annexation, they've allowed us to cooperate. They've allowed us to achieve economies of scale and leveraging and getting bigger dollars. So those are the kind of things that have helped us over the years to battle inflation. And I would give a large part of the credit statewide to our state senator, Kirk Schuring. And while I have this public moment, I just wanted to wish him the best in his health affairs going forward, offer to support to his families. And I wanted to credit him for Stark County and cities and townships here in giving us the tools that we have to get different forms of resources to combat inflation and to help us go back fewer times for lesser dollars to the residents.
Yeah, amen. He's done a lot to help all of that, for sure. All right, well, we thank you so much for coming in this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.